I'm Lisa Ye with Sentral. Prior to joining Sentral, I spent 20 years in multifamily. And the reason I joined Sentral is because this is an innovative platform. We are property management companies for Class A buildings that can deliver the highest NOI and revenue for property owners. Typically, our property owners are institutional family funds. Our average size asset is about 250 units of apartment building or a Class A building. And we run 4 product types in the same building: the unfurnished long-term lease, the mid-length, which is on average for us about 90 days, and then we do the short-term, on average is about 3.5 nights. And then we also have home sharing, which we enable and encourage our residents to home share the unit through Airbnb.
Thanks, Lisa. Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt. I work for Greystar, the global leader in rental housing. We're pleased to manage over 800,000 apartments worldwide and be responsible for assets of a valuation of more than 280 billion. My role within Greystar is to work across our European markets. We're live in 7 of those. I work within our investment management part of the business, and specifically my background is consumer psychology, B2C landscape basically, so brand creation, marketing, revenue growth, customer experience.
Thank you. And Francesco.
Hello everybody, I'm Francesco Zanella, I'm Managing Director at Starwood Capital. We're one of the largest global real estate private equity houses. We have over $120 billion under management globally. We have offices in the US, in Europe, in Asia, in the APAC region. And yeah, I mean, being an investor, I'm definitely one of the least intelligent people in the room, so I'll probably won't be able to answer any of your questions, but I'll listen to them and I'll try to come up with something.
Okay, we'll give it a go. So let's talk about the benefits of including a short-term rental offer or an apart hotel offer in a build-to-rent or a multi-family building. Matt, can I start with you? What are the main benefits of doing this for a building owner or an investor?
So conventional multifamily or build to rent, typically you're looking for kind of north of 96% in terms of the occupancy, and then of course a healthy rental growth depending on those markets. Some can be very aggressive, some can be more incremental. Where short stay presents itself as potentially, I'm not to use that word for Greystar, potentially is a large scale opportunity. We're still working out whether how much to explore or whether there's anything to exploit in there. We're dabbling, learn by doing. But realistically, you know your demand channels, you know your market opportunity for your conventional. There's this opportunity for diversified revenue, diversified demand, and also introducing a clientele that you probably wouldn't have got before that you could introduce to your product. So that's realistically where there's potentially the opportunity for short stay within the Greystar landscape, conventional multifamily.
And would you select the locations to do this very much according to how long it would take an asset to lease up and stabilise? Presumably the longer it would take for a building to stabilise, the greater the opportunity to do this.
Yes is the short answer. Yeah, obviously it's market dependent. If your investment thesis is to lease up within a 12-month period and you're held to that, then you have to see whether there's an opportunity to run concurrently some short stay activity to help bolster that sort of rent roll. But yeah, the longer that lease up or the more sort of phased developments there are, then the opportunity grows.
Can I actually jump in this question? I mean, this point is a crucial one as an investor. We used to live in a world where money was free, and money is not free anymore. Residential across the globe went from 6-7% cap rates in the US 15 years ago to 3%. I think in Europe has always been around 3%, which with a risk-free rate that goes around, depending on the country you pick. But on the menu you got between the 4s, the 3s, and the 5s. Obviously, it becomes very difficult to run a business plan, invest in a residential product that yields a positive result when your yield is way below your cost of capital, or risk-free cost of capital. So what we're going to do, either rent, double, triple, they're feasible. I mean, we know that the regulator is very concerned about affordability, and it should be. Urbanization trend is not slowing. COVID has not stopped that. Probably someplace in the US it has, but not over here in Europe. I think you can already bet against that. And so cities will become more crowded, nobody's going to develop, and rents are becoming unaffordable. So how can we keep on investing in the asset class and still earning a positive return in this environment? It's a very important question, because if private investors stop investing, new product is not completed. And the housing shortage becomes worse as product actually becomes older, and nobody can even invest the capital to keep it up to date and up to spec and rent it. I think optimizing, so yield optimizing the product is part of the answer to that. And that's what we're trying to do across our regions. We're one of the largest apartment owners in the US, one of the largest single family owners in the US. We have one residential platform in Europe. We're trying to maximize the yield of our products by, on the spectrum between very short rentals and very long rentals, what do we want to see? What gives us the best bang for our buck, and where can we get to a positive yield spread?
I'd love to add on to that. You and I should definitely talk, because because we did a case study of a bunch of assets. So we run a strictly 100% multifamily long term versus our model. Our model generates about 20% higher NOI. Exactly what you're saying. So in the United States, you can't build a project for less than 6.5 yield right now. So our platform is the only way for multifamily owners to actually be able to build that project because of our ability to generate higher NOI. And the reason that's happening is that a lot of multifamily owners are just leaving money on the table. On average, our nightly stays generate about 137% premium over an unfurnished apartment. Our record was on Super Bowl, where the rate of that room, you call it, was 10 times higher than unfurnished for that one night. It was during the Super Bowl weekend. So apartment owners have a bunch of assets they're just not maximizing. And if you run the flexible stay, you can get higher returns, higher revenue. We've also been able to demonstrate we can also deliver higher customer service. So out of half of our assets, they're in the elite 1% for customer service. How we do that is we've actually sold and brought people from the hotel world to run multifamily buildings, because the reality is that they just know how to run the buildings better. They know the service side, they want to meet you, they want to greet you. We have information on all the folks that live at our building, they're our guests. In the multifamily world, they're all about costs. Good luck having them trying to learn your name or even greet you when you come through the door. So that's why I think it's benefited for us to take the best of the hotel world in the short-term rental and really juicing that in the multifamily building.
Lisa, how did you hit on the concept of having 4 different tiers of service in the same building? How did you arrive at that conclusion that that's the best one for your buildings?
We look at our revenue management for the pricing for the different product types, and then we look at what the demand drivers are that will yield the highest revenue. So every building will have a different composition. Our asset in Miami, it's 94% furnished, most of it's short term. And then I have in Los Angeles, it's only 6% because of the regulations. I can't do nightly stays, I can only do 30-day plus. And 30-day plus, the delta between a furnished and unfurnished, the premium are not as healthy. So we look at every single multifamily building and we figure out how to bring the demand. Just kind of what you said is that it's also lowered the risk profile, because right now we know in the United States, occupancy and rents are coming down for apartment buildings. It's been 16 years of wave. And now they're seeing that coming down, so this is also a way to diversify the risk for the owners.
Are you facing any particular operational challenges in serving these various audiences in the same building?
It's very difficult, but in the last 4 years we've made it seem seamless. So we have created this thing called Sentral Hub, which essentially is pulling everything from the PMS for multifamily and short term, and all the different booking engines, and we're pulling it into a hub, and then we're operating it, spitting out that information so that all our reporting are all consolidated as one. our on-site team, they look at everything as one. Because right now, there's no systems, there's no operators that can run all these different product types. So that's what we've been doing, is really adopting to all the different technology and all the different platforms and bringing it together so that we can run the building seamless.
Matt, do you think there is a minimum size of building in terms of number of units for this concept to work? And let's just say, for example, you were going to do it in a new asset. Would you do it yourself? Would you bring in a third party to do the short-term rentals? Or would you try and find a tech partner to do that? How would it work?
Well, on the conventional multifamily side, just in terms of like unit count, we typically don't operate anything less than kind of 200, 250. I'm not in a position actually to be able to answer with any sort of credibility, muscle memory myself of like what that unit count would need to be to offer truly kind of short stay or flexible product that runs within it. I can talk to what we are doing though, which is better learn by doing exercise. So we have an asset in Austria, which is just shy of 900 units, and that is student, that's young professional, and that's service department. We have about 100 of those in there. And then on the multifamily side, we have some kind of service department models within there. And we both have some amazing partners that kind of we work with to do that. And then we also do that ourselves, which is very painful. So really, it's all about offering the best outcome for that resident, for that customer. And I think it can be a bit too easy to think you can do that yourself. Ultimately, you need to understand what you're trying to achieve. Is it purely an exploitation to get that NOI up, for example? Then if so, it's about cutting costs, it's about removing friction. If you're the best person to do that, you do it. If you're not the best person to do that, work with an amazing partner that can do that for you. It's definitely complicated. I echo what you said, the traditional person that works within conventional multifamily and the staffing structures within there do not lend themselves extremely well to the nature of that really flexible, hey, I'm going to turn up when I like, and quite rightly. So it probably wasn't a very succinct answer, and I apologise for that. Where we believe it's right, we'll do it ourselves. Where we believe it's right for someone else to do it, we'll do that. And it's all to offer the best outcome, whether it be for the actual consumer or whether it actually be for our investment partner as well.
Yeah, Francesco, would you like to pick up on that piece in terms
Sure,
of...
can I do a shameless plug here? We are an investor in an amazing business called Vivo. We're owners of Altido. And I mean, they're the same company that merged recently. We actually invested in the company to allow the merger to happen. And one of the USPs of that platform is being able to manage from individual flats, rented room by room, to 200 keys student housing complex under the same roof. And we find a tremendous amount of value in being able to actually not just find the inflection point between mid-term, short-term, long-term, but also, is it a flat, is it a studio, is it a room by room? And that actually allows to circumvent a bit the affordability issue that we're seeing, especially when it comes to larger units, that otherwise would be very difficult to place in the market. What we're seeing, especially in the city centers of a lot of European cities, that you have very large units. And these are mostly empty, or rented at rates that are below the actual potential. And this is effectively taking away stock from like the housing stock that you would have in the city. It's kind of a shame. And I think if there is one thing that as a regulator I would do, is I would try to make sure that the space that we already have is utilized efficiently. And as in, again, companies like WVU and Altido are doing that as we speak.
Thanks, Francesco. Lisa, I'm interested to hear about distribution and marketing for a building that has quite a few different user groups. That sounds like it's going to get pretty complicated to me. How do you navigate that?
It does. So we do have talent that we hire from Highgate, which is also an investor of ours. They manage about 500 hotels over the United States. So they're helping us distribute on the short-term side. But we get about 2/3 of our business direct, either through group business. So we actually have a team of corporate sales, group sales, that go after the Fortune 500 companies and FEMA and the government to to source that demand directly. And then the other third is just through digital marketing, SEOs, and then folks that know Sentral.com. So we've been able, and successfully been able to divide that into a third, and that's important because you don't want to be strictly relying on OTAs. But it's really through, it's quite complicated, but once you've built the infrastructure for the hub, it actually allows you to have as many systems as you want, as long as our teams and everyone operates just one system, so we don't go into these multiple systems necessarily.
And the home sharing aspect of your offer, is that something you manage in-house, or are your residents able to put their inventory on another platform?
Yeah, we tried that the first couple of years. It was not a great route because we realized that's not the business we want to be in. Because people would complain about somebody's stuff in the fridge, and now our team has to go and clean it out, or somebody's soy sauce shouldn't be there. So it just was too much. We realized that it's better for us to just get a revenue share about 25% and partner up with Airbnb and have the residents go out and deal with Airbnb, and they can also determine the pricing that they're comfortable with. When we got involved in the middle of the pricing, folks were upset at us because they thought they should have done higher pricing. So, we've now completely just outsourced that.
I think it's quite interesting how the likes of Airbnb and the multifamily sector have come together quite quickly after being pretty adversarial. I think it's fair to say that a lot of landlords weren't happy with the idea of their tenants putting their homes on Airbnb. But at Greystar, Matt, is that something that you guys are comfortable with? Would you consider doing that?
Yes, affordability is, always a big concern for us. I think it's fair to say, price and value are two completely different things. I always reiterate that because a company like Greystar, its job is to achieve the best possible rents it can for the best product that it offers. But sometimes that lends itself then to some very negative press and public opinion. So, on the affordability front, where that kind of peer-to-peer resident hosting can really make its play, and there are some great use cases out there where people are offsetting their rent as a result of doing it. That opens up the product to more people, and if you can provide the right level of management and oversight for that, so that the community itself, both within your building and around the building as well, and the local residents feel the benefit, then it's definitely something very compelling, and I think it's very sincere in its roots. Of course, there's money to be made as well, but I really do think that the thresholds I see across Europe of how much income people are spending on their rent breaks my heart a little bit in some of the markets to already be able to predict some people might not be able to afford the next renewal. So for me, what it represents is opening up the product, or allowing people to stay with the product for as long as they possibly can. If their wages aren't going up, potentially they can actually have a better passive income. And if we can facilitate that in some way, shape or form and protect what we're trying to do, I wholeheartedly support it.
Yeah, that sounds like a very enlightened attitude. Francesco, is this something that you allow in your buildings to some of your tenants?
We do.
Rent to rent?
We do. We're working with the Airbnb too in the United States. I think something similar to what you guys do. And I would say the biggest benefit for us that we get from what Airbnb does is the regulations bit, like taking care of, like gives us how many days you can, sublet, yada yada yada. And I think that's another great example of how regulations make real estate more expensive, because Airbnb needs to get paid to do that job. And basically, almost the only reason why they're so successful and they work so well with institutional landlords is that they're very good at dealing with the regulation bit, which is something that you as a landlord, you don't really want to trip on. But yeah, I think it's, as we were saying, affordability is number one concern right now in I would say in the single-family, multi-family market. The US, in Europe, Europe more than in the US. And anything we can do to make things more affordable, it's definitely something we should do.
Thank you. Matt, what are the planning challenges around this? I do hear build-to-rent operators saying that the planners are only just coming up to speed with various aspects of build-to-rent. as a standalone. So when you're introducing all these other potential elements into the equation, what planning challenges does that present?
That's not necessarily my forte. I feel the outcome, which is the pain, but in terms of the planning, it's whether we're thinking about though, and we're still, you know, are we viewing it as an asset class, or some of these that we're suggesting it's actually an amenity and a service proposition within your kind of existing product. But at the end of the day, anything needs results, anything needs outcome and data. So yes, it is challenging to get the appropriate planning, but if you don't have enough customer success, if you don't have enough narrative, if you're not concise enough in what it is that you're trying to achieve, then there's always going to be some pushback, whether that be apathy, whether that be wholehearted sincerity, that they just want to ensure what's going on. It's very difficult then that it's very fragmented and there isn't one package view of what it is you're trying to mould. But we have some great team members at Greystar, of which I am not one of those, that kind of really works on the lobbying. It's so complicated, the lobbying and regulations. So not best place to answer it, but answering it from my viewpoint of everyone's doing their job. I don't believe anyone's trying to stop progress. They just need to understand what that means, and everyone's got a win from it as well, which then makes it really challenging when you're introducing something new. People don't understand, well, what's in it for me.
Lisa, could you answer that from a US perspective? Does it vary a lot regionally, and how up to speed are the authorities with this flexible use concept?
I would say it's pretty varied. I think that New York is probably the most extreme. California is very extreme. We tend to find that red states have looser regulations, that our model is easier to monetize. In the blue states, with the exception of a couple of them, those tend to be a little more difficult. They would only allow for 30-day plus because the way they see it is that when you take housing out for short term, you're essentially taking it out of the housing stock for somebody to own or rent a home. So the thinking is still very, it's still very old school in some ways. They have not really embraced the concept that short term is the same as housing as if somebody living there for long term. And so I think when you look at housing, the way the United States is set up is all very separate, right? Apartments are in one building, offices are in one building, hotels in a separate building. It is not the highest and best use, and it's actually extremely inefficient, because how often do you find somebody who's living there, sign a lease for 12 months, is actually living there for 12 months? So when somebody's not living there, why not let someone else stay there for short-term and length, because then you don't have to build another hotel room. So it actually goes against the concept that we're taking housing stock away. So it's varying degrees, but I do think that in the future, this is going to be very common that you see multiple product types in the same building. Because it is the highest best use, and it's probably the most use of real estate.
Francesco, to make this flex concept work properly, it's going to need some serious tech behind it, and all singing, all dancing, PMS. Is that out there now, or have you had to look into acquiring one or developing your own? Is there something out there that can do everything you need for a flex offer?
I mean, we're lucky that we have a very strong partner in Europe to work together with them on it. I would say the biggest piece that is missing, at least from my limited knowledge of the technology available in the sector, is dynamic pricing across duration and white label, so that I don't have to go and buy it off Airbnb or buy it off whoever else would sell it to me, and I can actually do it on my own and reach that if you want the margin that we're charging. I think if you are able to do dynamic pricing on a smaller portfolio without having to work often on TA, and you do it across various durations, so does it make sense for me to be super short, medium, long? That would be probably the bit of tech that I would be more interested to buy today.
Lisa, your offer can be particularly complicated. Do you have a tech partner, or have you developed in-house tech to manage that?
We do both. So we had to have the in-house team build the Sentral hub because they're on completely different systems. So in the multifamily, it's either Yardi, Entrada, and then MRI. Most folks are on Yardi. And apartment owners have told us that's the only platform we will use. So if you're doing short-term and mid-length, we have different PMS systems that we pull in So unfortunately, there isn't a PMS system that does all three correctly and right. And so that's a challenge you go up against, is that you have to, no matter what, stay with Yardi. And so if you stay with Yardi, Yardi's never going to build a short-term platform. It's just not lucrative enough for them to develop that software. They're thinking about it, they've been talking about it, but they've been talking about it for 2 years, so I don't see that coming. And I don't think it's going to be advanced enough for folks to really use it.